In this video, I'm going to go over a study technique that I call make meaning of notes. Basically, all it is you looking at your notes again and making meaning out of them so they genuinely mean something to you. Now, one question I often get from students is, well, what counts as notes? Because usually what they think of notes are just notes taken from PowerPoints that are copied straight from what the teacher has decided. They're like, well, I don't take notes in this class. Well, I call it notes, but it's really anything that you do in the classroom. So this could be additional notes when teachers are giving instruction without a PowerPoint and without writing things on the board, because what teachers say beyond what is visually up there is also very important. Also, worksheets count as notes because they are educating you in how to do problems and answer questions and understand content and skills. Quizzes and tests counts as notes. That's you showing that you understand the content and the skills. Directions for projects and assignments also count as notes, especially since so often students don't actually read them. But it's very important that you do, breaking it down and what does this mean and how are you going to be successful on it. Essentially, anything academic you do in the classroom counts as notes. And so why do we care about looking at all these things over again? Because, gee, that sounds like a lot of time. Well, the purpose is that you're looking at your notes and all the other things I just named again, because what you're going to do is add a new layer of meaning. The first time you sit in class, it probably seems like a bunch of new words that you're very confused about. Probably not fully processing it, especially since you're also in the act of writing it down. But now, after sitting in the class, you have the big picture, this bigger idea of it, and therefore you're able to understand it to a deeper level and add meaning to it. Also, making meaning of notes is studying. It doesn't just come down to cramming at the end, but consistently looking over your notes and doing something with it is actually studying. So now, how can you make meaning of notes? These first two slides are going to go over the typical notes you take in class and what to do with them. Of course, you want to highlight, making it what I call pop. You're not going to have enough time to read over every single word of every single note again. So what you want to do is, while it's fresh in your head, make the information that really stands out pop. So then you can have a quick review of that highlighted information. But make sure you do not highlight the whole thing. Otherwise, instead of having information pop out at you, you just have a yellow or pink paper. What I also really suggest doing is when you have a term or a bigger idea, you highlight that term or main idea, and then any of the smaller details or definitions or examples, you underline with your highlighter. So then your brain starts getting trained to see big ideas in the highlight, and then all the stuff underlined after that is associated with it. And that's a really effective way to study. I still do this to this day. Also, you can write terms bigger so that they pop out at you. We don't have to do traditional note-taking anymore where everything looks uniform. You can get creative with it, and that creativity will help things stick in your brain better. Also, add examples, symbols, make it sticks. Add them in different colors, write them bigger. Therefore, it really pops out at you and you cannot forget it. Also, this is a prime example of stuff that you're going to want to take notes on that is not necessarily in the teacher's lesson, visually written. So symbols that you might come up with or examples the teacher goes over. I learn best through examples, and so I want to write down all the examples I can get as I'm taking a class or learning, so that way I can refer to it and still have that deeper understanding. So here is an example of what I would do in class. Preclusive imperialism is a term I teach in IB history, and then my students could add in a different color that purchasing Alaska to keep Russia out of the Americas is an example. And that example is probably going to help them understand the term more. What else can you do? Draw arrows to show connections. Afterwards, you might see things arranged in a different way than what your teacher had thought, and that's totally fine. We all produce knowledge and understand knowledge in a different way. So start drawing arrows to show connections, maybe label it, maybe there's a bigger theme, there's a formula they have in common, a term they have in common. Last but not least, the part that students probably hate the most is summarizing. It does take effort. It takes effort because it requires you to think about what you learned, and this is you proving to yourself that you did learn. Now, some other ways to make meaning beyond annotating your notes are going to be Quizlets and flashcards, including important vocab, asking key questions, important points made during class. You can work with your classmates to also create them and create them day by day. And this constant day by day is going to be a form of studying. Also, what's really great about Quizlet is it's on your phone, and so you can use it very quickly to review and study when you're maybe waiting to get picked up, waiting in line for something, etc. Other ways you can make meaning are to redo problems. This would be really specific to math and science since you have to do a lot of problems. I would suggest redoing ones that maybe you struggled with during class, questions that you struggled with on homework, or also more specifically ones that you actually did miss. The more times you do something, the more likely you are to remember it and retain it. Writing it over and over and over again is very helpful. So practice makes perfect? Wrong. Practice makes permanent. Other ways are to create one-pagers, summarizing a bunch of notes that you have. It's a one-page summary. In the short term, it helps you recognize what you need to know for the test, and in the long term, it's quick review for finals or IB and AP exams. You are creating a study guide for yourself, and that's a really effective technique. Last but not least, you can type or rewrite your notes. A lot of students swear by this because they're relearning the information, seeing it again. I also suggest that if you're going to type, keep it all in a Google Doc that it's running, because then you can easily hit Control Find or Command F and be able to find all the terms you need to know for a quick review of longer sections of notes. So these are ways that you can make meaning of your notes. These are all effective study strategies that I really suggest. Try out some, see what works for you. Some might work for certain classes and not for others. So I really suggest these, and happy consistent studying.